old schoolers. Today we're talking about a recipe for catching curiosities. And we're going to be using the ponderings board. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of things that go into this recipe. They are different ingredients. You might choose to use all the ingredients, or you might choose to vary the ingredients based on your own desires. I'm going to throw them out there. You decide what ingredients you want to use. The first thing we're going to look at is a ponderings board, which is just a large piece of butcher paper plastered on the wall, or perhaps even a whiteboard if you have a big whiteboard on your living room wall, kitchen wall, wherever you're going to see it. So you're going to jot down curiosities without a filter over several days, maybe even a week. And your child's just going to come up with these curiosities. Why do I see the moon during the day? Why is the dew on those blades of grass? Why do I feel frustrated inside when I can't understand something? Whatever those curiosities are, plant them onto that board. And we're going to come back to that in a moment. But for now, you're just going to have those curiosities there. What we're going to do is start stoking creativity. One of the ways to do that is to have your child spend 20 minutes to an hour per day doing something he or she loves. Those are called high flow activities, those things that you would do if you had total freedom in your day. What would your child be doing? So go ahead and have them feel what flow feels like day after day. Maybe it's playing with dolls. Maybe it's building with Lego. Maybe it's climbing that backyard tree. Whatever it is, make sure your child gets a period of time each day to feel that in her body. All right, back to that ponderings board. After several days or a week, I want you to look for the intersections of multiple curiosities. You might even draw lines between related ideas. So maybe your son likes building with Lego. Maybe he's also interested in robotics. You might draw a line between those. Perhaps he has a friend of the family who's an engineer. Maybe you might draw a line between wanting to ask that engineer something and the Lego or the robotics. You're going to just draw lines to those that have any kind of connection, even if it's remote. So, and then you're going to want to identify curiosities that align with your child's strengths, with your child's goals, values, what he or she finds meaningful, or her identity. And just take a pen, a whiteboard marker, whatever it is, and you're going to circle those with some type of color so they stand out to you. So once you see that there's some connections, I'd like to suggest bringing that into your daily superpower time. So for those of you who are spending a few minutes or even up to 90 or 120 minutes a day focusing on building that skill of paying attention through the Pomodoro, which is the time of focus, the time of brain break. Brain break, focus. Brain break, focus. Back and forth. That's the Pomodoro. If you haven't listened to that podcast yet, it's called Putting on the Cape, if you want to hear that explanation of what a Pomodoro is. So you're going to decide on that group of curiosities and you're going to poke at them during that 90 to 120 minutes. Or maybe it's just a few minutes a day. It doesn't really matter. You're going to start to have your child just poke around the edges. Feel what that curiosity feels like in their mind, in their body. Let it percolate. All right, so we want to start to build that curiosity. And once that curiosity starts to build and you're bringing that into your superpower time of the Pomodoro, start to explore more about those curiosities. You might choose one, and let's say we're going to explore them through books. Books are a great way to learn a little bit more about a curiosity because there's such a great wealth of information inside of books. But you can also include embodied experiences where your child maybe goes on field trips or maybe even watches documentaries, videos, however your child wants to learn about that content. Your child does not need to take notes. If your child's a little bit older and wants to take some type of note, let them figure out what kind of notes work best. It might be doodles, it might be something artistic, it might just be writing down questions, more questions. It might be playing around with a curiosity based on studying that curiosity. So however that looks, let your child choose how to navigate through any type of notes or jotting down that they might want to do. Of course, younger kids are not going to be doing that. So the purpose here is to start to develop some foundational knowledge and to get some inspiration going. So your child will want to come back the next day to poke around some more. So if you're going the book route, I encourage you to get a really light, fun book for the first book that you read, either alone or together. Your child, if they're older, might want to read that book alone, but your child might, even if they're older, want to partner with you and want to kind of dive into that curiosity together. So make space for that kind of collaboration and that kind of connection. So that first book is just super fun. Your child might just be learning about that curiosity on the periphery of whatever that story is. The second book might deal in some way with the history of whatever that topic is. So let's go back to Lego. If it's about Lego, maybe that second book is going to look at the history of Lego. How did that ever come to be? Or maybe your child is learning about the stars or the planets. So you're looking about the history of how did we discover more about the stars and the planets. So the brain loves a narrative. The brain loves a good story. This second book is your opportunity to start to build that narrative inside your child's mind. The third book is going to include some type of terminology. When we're learning about a topic we're curious about, every topic has its own words. It has its own terms. If your child can understand that terminology, it's an open door into understanding more about that curiosity. So have the third book focus on some terms. And then for that next book and maybe the one after, maybe a total of 5 books, it's just the dive is getting a little bit deeper each time. Maybe a little bit more sophisticated knowledge in the 4th and 5th book. Maybe that last book even focuses on the future applications of a topic. So going back to Lego and robotics, maybe that 5th book is going to look at AI, artificial intelligence, and how we might apply that to our world. So maybe some future applications can be a fun way to dive deeper into that curiosity. And then your child can, during that time, feel free to learn documentaries, podcasts, blogs, interviews, any other information that they are motivated to seek out. So you can amplify that passion by then asking your child to talk to family or others about what he's learned. Maybe he's going to share with a neighbor, or maybe share with his father or her best friend. However that looks, when we're sharing something we've learned, it helps us cement that knowledge and it helps us feel connected. So if your child is still interested at this point, then we're going to keep going. If your child is no longer interested, they feel pretty satisfied with what they've learned, then you can circle back to that ponderings board and explore another curiosity. It's up to your child how deep they want to go when their children are learning about these chosen curiosities. So if your child is still interested after those 5 books have been consumed and that framework is built inside your child's mind, it's a great time to go and conduct an expert interview or join some kind of focus group like a meetup or a book club or a foreign language class, depending on what the curiosity is. So if your child is, back to our robotics Lego example, maybe your child's really interested in robots, and so you might take a trip to a business that focuses on artificial intelligence or maybe game development, or however that application is expressing itself in real life. Maybe you can set up an interview for your child to interview someone who's working in that field. Now remember, your child has some history, has some terminology. Those conversations at this point with an expert are going to be much easier because of that story and those terms that are inside your child's mind. Okay, expert interview, now done. Maybe there's several that happen. Is your child still interested? If not, circle back to the ponderings board, choose another curiosity. If they're still interested, you might want to consider tutoring or mentoring with lots of incremental feedback to grow your child's skill set. You'll look for an expert, someone who has knowledge to share in whatever that curiosity is. And it's at this point that that expert can really make a big difference in your child's growth. Now, we didn't employ the expert right at the beginning because we needed to build some foundational knowledge to create what I like to think is pegs inside your child's brain. You know how you have your keys and you can hang your keys on a pegboard in your house? That new knowledge are like your keys hanging on pegs inside your child's brain. Once the pegs are built, it's way easier for that new knowledge to have a place to land. So at this point, you might have an expert involved. You also might want to integrate other subject areas into that chosen curiosity content area and keep reading deeply and broadly across intersecting fields of interest, not just in that narrow field of the curiosity, but other fields that surround that curiosity too. If your child's still interested, you might want to insert yourself into some curiosity space around that topic with volunteering or maybe even some type of job, depending on how old your child is. You want to try out those newfound skills in the real world. And you want to include the flow boosters of novelty, unpredictability, complexity throughout that whole experience. Those three things, novelty, unpredictability, complexity, they dump more brain chemicals into our brain, which helps your child stay motivated, stay paying attention. It helps your child be present in that present moment, which helps learning. And maybe there's some risk taking that your child could take. Maybe she wants to stand up in front of a group of her friends and do a little report. Or maybe she wants to go show what she's learned somewhere else. So that's a great way to encourage risk taking and that cementing of knowledge at this point in her learning about that curiosity. If your child is struggling to pay attention, I would suggest starting some type of mindfulness practice to help keep your child's brain calm. So we talk about several of these in Bold Schoolers, but learning to know where what I call the flashlight, where's the flashlight focused versus where is the floodlight focused. Those are two different types of awareness that can come from understanding how a mindfulness practice can help. So just some slow breathing, focusing on your breath, pointing that flashlight at your breath, just for a few minutes a day can start to make a difference with your child being able to attend for longer and longer periods of time. I also encourage 5 minutes of gratitude practice. Gratitude is so great because it loads our system with the novelty of what we're noticing in the world. It helps us feel positive, optimistic, and in a better state for learning. So I encourage you to do some gratitude practice during the day as well. And then maybe in the evenings or afternoons, I encourage you to have your child read something totally for pleasure outside of the area of curiosity. That kind of practice helps keep fresh ideas coming in and creates connections across disciplines. So a total pleasure book that your child chooses would be great for a little while every night. And then lots of sleep. 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours of sleep, depending on the age of your child, is really good for learning. So that is some ideas for chasing a curiosity on a daily practice, what that might look like on a weekly practice. Lots of time for flow activities. You want to encourage those even outside of chasing the curiosity. Lots of time every day for exercise. That's great for learning as well. And then lots of rest. Maybe even some kinds of stretching or massaging your child's feet, or a warm bath. That's really great for that recovery after they've been really learning all day and trying hard. So lots of feedback from you, from experts during that learning of the curiosity works really well. And of course, time for friends, time for social connections. That's another important part of the equation. Lots to think about in this. Pick a few ideas or try the whole kit and caboodle. I wish you luck in chasing curiosities. I'd love to hear from you. What is your child's curiosity? What do they want to know more about?